In this video, I'm going to show you how to create buttonholes or just holes in your knitting without snapping or adding extra yarn. Buttonholes are really easy to create. I think the trickiest part is to make them look neat. Today, I'm going to show you a couple of options that you have, and you can use them however you prefer, but I just wanted to share that with you in case you will find them useful. For the purpose of this demonstration, let's just assume that we want to create a buttonhole that is 4 needles wide, and it will go right here in the very center. I will place in holding position all the needles from the opposite side where my carriage is, including the 4 needles where I want my buttonhole to be. We'll make sure to also set my carriage to hold, and we'll knit 1 row up to the point where I want the buttonhole to start. We'll make sure to place the 4 needles where I want the buttonhole to be back in working position. And I will just do an around the peg cast off. We'll just place another extra needle in work just so I can place the stitch onto. Remove the stitches that I cast off the gate pegs. The next step is to form stitches back on these needles. I will just use a normal E-wrap cast on. We'll bring the needles out and just E-wrap. I just brought an extra needle right there just to be on the safer side. For the next step, what we want to do is to actually continue that row. So we knitted the row up to the point where the buttonhole began, and now I just want to knit with the needles that were in holding position previously. I'm going to bring those in holding position as well. Remember, the carriage is still on hold. So I just placed my yarn back in my yarn feeder. Move the carriage to the right side. And like I said before, all I want to do is to continue that row, so I need to knit with the needles where I have the buttonhole and the rest on the left side. I can just place my needles in upper working position like so. Just push them back. And we're just continuing the row like that. Now I can take my carriage from hold and just knit as many rows as I want. I tried another option of the same exact method where I used a chain stitch cast off, so I'm going to show you that as well, just in case you think this one is a bit nicer. We'll do the same. I will place the needles in holding position and my carriage on hold. So I'll form the buttonhole in the same place. We'll knit 1 row. And now I'm kind of just pulling my yarn a little bit out from the cone just so I don't have any kind of tension. And I will manually knit a looser row with those 4 needles. It's just slightly looser than what we're knitting with the carriage. I will use a latch tool. So these are the 4 needles where I want the buttonhole to be. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll move 1 needle to the right, and I'm going to put my latch tool through that stitch, like so. And I'll grab the first stitch. Now that I secured it there, I can just drop it. and pull it through that stitch. This is just an idea. You can of course do this differently if you want. And I'll continue like that until I cast off all these 4 stitches. Going through the stitch, securing, drop in. I will repeat the same what I did there. I'm going to go through the next stitch. We'll just pull my latch tool through. And I will manually form a new chain, like so. And now I can bring my needles that I've just emptied back all the way out. Again, we have to cast on just like we did previously, but I will do a chain stitch cast on just like I did casting off. Just forming chains with my tool, like so. And I will place that stitch to the next needle. All we have to do, just like we did previously, is to continue that row. So I'll bring the carriage back to the right side. Put the needles in upper working position. And continue that row. I can take my carriage from hold and continue knitting. I also wanted to show you how to create buttonholes if you want to do them vertically as well. Normally what we would do is, let's say if I want to have a buttonhole right in the center, we would put half of the needles on hold, the carriage on hold as well, and we would knit those rows. So now what I would normally do is I would snap the yarn and then move the carriage to the other side, put these needles on hold and these ones in work, and then I would knit the same amount of rows for this side to even it out. But one option you can try, of course it will depend on how many rows you have to knit for your hole, but for the purpose of this demonstration, let's say we have to knit 7 rows. So I'm able to bring the carriage back to the other side. Just chain stitch the yarn to kind of bring it down. So I'm just going to grab the bar in between the stitches. And form a chain. Going through and grabbing the next one like so. And then I'm just placing that last loop on the first needle on the other side, which is on hold. And now I can bring the needles where I had knitted in holding position. Just going to put my yarn through. We'll also bring the carriage to the other side, to the right side. And now I'm able to knit the rows on the other side. So I'll bring the other half of needles in upper working position. And I will knit again 7 rows. I can take my carriage from hold. And this could be our buttonhole. Here is the buttonhole where we cast off around the peg and then we did the E-wrap cast on. And this is the one where we did a chain stitch cast on and off. You can see how big of a difference it makes as we are able to tighten the stitches a bit more like that. So it's really important for you to test this depending on the size of your buttons and see what works. These are just two options. And here is a chain stitch cast on and off in a chunkier viscose merino. This is a horizontal one. You can see that it's not really that obvious that chain stitch so much here, so it's really not that visible from the right side. Maybe I did it a little bit too tight there, but this is just the idea. You can test it and see. I think that chain stitch gives the buttonhole a little bit more of a structure to this side.